When did you realize the person you admired most was actually a monster hiding in plain sight? In this business, you need to be willing to blur the lines to create a masterpiece. Just trust my process and you'll go far, my mentor Marcus told me with a reassuring grin. That should have been my first red flag. My name is Leo, and when I landed a junior analyst position at a top-tier investment firm in New York City right out of college, I felt like I had won the lottery. I was assigned to Marcus's team, and he was a legend, charismatic, brilliant, and seemingly untouchable. He took me under his wing, and for the first year, it was incredible. He taught me the ropes, praised my work, and painted a future where I would become his right-hand man. I didn't just see him as a boss. I saw him as the blueprint for my entire future. Our biggest client was a massive tech conglomerate, and we were tasked with restructuring their international assets, a project worth hundreds of millions. Marcus gave me an unprecedented amount of responsibility, telling me, "Leo, I'm testing you. This is your chance to prove you're ready for the big leagues." Rising drama began when he started instructing me to use what he called aggressive but effective accounting strategies. He'd sit me down in his glass-walled office overlooking Manhattan and say, "The standard rules are for standard results. We're aiming for legendary." When I would hesitate over a complex transfer or a creatively categorized expense, he'd laugh it off. "It's just creative accounting, Leo. Everyone at this level does it. It's how you provide maximum value to the client." Had me create separate ledgers and use specific routing codes that seemed overly complicated, but he assured me it was to maintain client confidentiality. The pressure was immense, and I was working 18-hour days. I was so focused on impressing him and proving myself that I started ignoring the gnawing feeling in my gut. He would often ask me to sign off on reports I hadn't fully reviewed, saying, "I've already looked them over, I just need your signature for the file. Don't you trust me?" And I did. That was my fatal mistake. The project was a massive success, and the firm celebrated our team. I felt on top of the world until an email landed in my inbox a month later. "Urgent, mandatory internal audit." And I asked Marcus about it. His confident demeanor shifted slightly. "It's just a routine check," he said dismissively. "Let me handle the auditors. You've done your job perfectly. Just stick to the story that you followed standard procedure." The day of the audit, we sat in a sterile conference room with 3 stone-faced auditors. When they started questioning the asset transfers, I looked to Marcus, expecting him to deliver one of his signature charismatic explanations. Instead, he cleared his throat, opened a file, and said, "I've been concerned about Leo's methods for some time." My blood ran cold. He presented a series of carefully fabricated emails, seemingly from him to me, warning me about my reckless and unauthorized strategies. He claimed I went rogue, driven by ambition. The creative methods he had forced me to use were, in fact, textbook embezzlement and fraud. He had built a perfect narrative with me as the villain. I was suspended immediately, my career and reputation destroyed in the span of 15 minutes. I realized with sickening clarity that the entire mentorship, the praise, the responsibility, it was all a long, elaborate setup. He hadn't been building me up, he had been building a scapegoat. Packing up my desk, escorted by security, I found an old, encrypted USB drive in the back of a drawer. Marcus had given it to me a year ago, telling me to use it for a one-time project backup, and then had apparently forgotten about it. My hands shaking, I took it home. I called a friend who was a cybersecurity expert, and after 2 days of intense work, he broke the encryption. What I found was beyond my wildest nightmares. Drive contained Marcus's real ledgers, a meticulous record of his fraudulent activities stretching back nearly a decade, long before I ever set foot in the firm. He had been stealing from clients for years, but the most chilling discovery was a folder on the drive labeled Contingency Plan. Inside was a step-by-step guide on how to groom and frame a junior analyst in the event of an audit. It was a template, complete with pre-written email drafts and strategies for psychological manipulation. My name wasn't the first one he had slotted into that horrifying document. Armed with this irrefutable proof, I didn't just go back to HR. I hired a lawyer and we scheduled a meeting with the SEC while simultaneously sending a copy of the evidence to the firm's board of directors. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic for Marcus. The next day, federal investigators raided our office, a scene that made the front page of the Wall Street Journal. Employees watched in stunned silence as Marcus, the untouchable legend, was escorted from his glass-walled office in handcuffs. His life of luxury, built on lies and betrayal, imploded. He was convicted on multiple counts of fraud and embezzlement, receiving a 15-year prison sentence and a fine that stripped him of every stolen cent. The firm, desperate to avoid further scandal, publicly exonerated me and offered me a massive settlement for the damages to my career and reputation. I took the settlement, left the world of corporate finance, and used the money to start my own financial consulting firm, one built on the principles of radical transparency and ethics. I became successful on my own terms, while Marcus's name became a cautionary tale whispered in boardrooms across the country, a symbol of how high you can fly before your own corruption sends you crashing back to earth.